Jesus be with us. Amen. Because this is
Amen.
not even about us getting together. This is so about someone listening to this and being impacted.
We'll to talk. We'll talk about. We'll talk about all of that because yes, it is way more than just that. But
yeah,
you're good, dude. I'm just going to do an introduction to the show. So first introduction to the show. You are the first guest.
Oh, wow.
You are the first guest.
Wow.
Of the podcast. You'll hear the name. I'll say the name.
Okay.
So it's still kind of, I'm not going to say anything right now. And then we're going to get straight into introductions.
Okay.
I saw people play with their ashes, and I was thinking about.
I just could not. I went to lunch, sat in the car. I'm a block away from St. Mary's.
Oh yeah. That's okay. That's okay. We did it last year.
Yeah.
Which was actually pretty cool.
That was.
It was a very spur of the moment.
Yes. It was all three of us, you, I, and Megs.
Yeah. I don't think we had like any idea.
Yeah.
Me or Megan, the wording, it was still very new and old to us at the same time.
Yeah.
But.
I'm ready whenever you are. You can go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
You ready? Make sure everything is great. Look wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
You good? Only one thing, one rule.
What?
I'll let you say Twinkie once.
Okay.
No. I mean, you can, whatever. Well, I really don't care.
That
I really
will
don't care.
go through the news, the airwaves.
It probably will. So,
Okay.
All right, man. Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Black Swan Renaissance, a podcast by me, yours truly, Ryan Fontenette-Mitchell, where we take a look into life from a biblical point, from a personal point, from my standpoint, and just regular experiences of life. And we have guests that reflect all walks of life. And here we just have a conversation about everything. And the goal is to listen and to love each other and ultimately just to have a great conversation about life at the end of the day. So without further ado, this is episode 0. Welcome to the Renaissance. Welcome. So glad that you are here. I have a wonderful guest. I would like to introduce a very special person to myself. She is a follower and a believer of Jesus, a wife, mother, artist, activist, photographer, creative, member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Incorporated. Her work captured Barack and Michelle Obama at their first inauguration, Vice President Kamala Harris, and President Harris on her presidential campaign, the mother of Juneteenth, Miss Opal Lee, and the oldest WW2 World War II vet, Richard Arvin Overton. Her work has been in the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston, Texas, the African American Library Gregory School in Houston, Texas, the Contemporary Austin in Austin, Texas, Austin City Hall in Austin, Texas, and the Maddie Kelly Art Center in Niceville, Florida, Health Gallery in Harlem, New York. She has received awards from achievements in Black Austin, the Black-owned newspaper The Villager as Photographer of the Week, Image Round Rock Arts People Choice Awards, and Best Photography, fresh off an art show at LBJ School of Public Affairs at University of Texas. Please welcome HBCU Texas State alumni, my mother, Melissa Fontenette-Mitchell, to the Renaissance.
Thank you. Wow. Great introduction.
Welcome. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's a long list of credits and accolades, and I think these conversations are important to archive the important people here in Austin, as well as you showcasing art here in Austin. But before we get to all of that, welcome, Mommy. This is the first
Wow.
podcast, the first episode. We've been talking about doing this for
Oh my God.
years.
Years.
And I know this has been a moment that you've been waiting for. I have been waiting for. How are you feeling?
Oh my gosh. You know, Ryan, when you told me you had a surprise, I said, okay. I know Michelle is going to be in town next week for South by Southwest.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, no, she wouldn't come this early. And then I said, I know my soror is on a long or extended vacation. Kamala Harris. So I said, okay, I know it's not her. And then I said, but he has something even bigger than that. And this great opportunity to just have a conversation with you, as we always do, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
For the record, I kept this down as a surprise because you're right. Like, I feel like we've had so many conversations, and I really wanted it to be the first conversation between a mother and a son.
Yes.
To me, I know. To me, it's such a beautiful relationship, as well as like the first woman that you see and you meet and you love, right? It's a mother, and I
so sweet. Oh my God.
But I mean, for me, mommy, this has been a long time coming because I wanted to have a podcast, but I wasn't really mature enough. I wasn't ready, as well as I didn't really have the tools and what I really wanted to say. And fast forward now, some 5 years later, this is that moment. And a lot of people fail to forget as well that everything came from a Black woman first, right?
Absolutely.
Life itself.
Yes.
And then we get all these different shapes and colors, right?
Yes.
But it comes from you. So, yeah, mommy, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you here. And I know it's a surprise.
This is so much fun because, we have conversations about everything, but mostly, that I love our conversations because I'm able to plant that seed.
Yeah.
Not just in you, but growing that seed like we spoke the other day, planting that seed and waiting for it to harvest.
Right.
And then the next generation, you and your family and your kids and so forth. And, that comes from the source. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are not aware the difference between the source and the resources. I think we were just talking about that the other day.
We were.
The source is God.
Yes,
and
ma'am. Everything
else are the resources, your job, your home, your part-time gig, your this, your that. And I'm hoping that in this conversation that we have, that it transforms lives.
Yeah.
Even one life at a time.
Right.
It's impactful.
Yeah, it is. I feel like for me, it's always, sometimes things don't even impact other people that I might not see, but they also, I walk away being impacted.
Right.
And sometimes that little nugget of like what we talk about is, I take for a whole entire lifetime.
Exactly.
You talk about resources, Mommy. Tell me where and how did you understand that? Like, how did you understand that as a young woman, as a young girl, and you kind of had those resources like instilled in you?
Yes. I really feel, Ryan, some of us are just innately born with that gift. Mm-hmm. I do remember one time, I hope my parents see this, because I remember one time.
Probably them calling right now.
That is probably one of them. We had a Volkswagen Beetle when we were young. My sister, which is your nanny, Dee, we would enjoy riding in the Beetle, and my dad had just gotten laid off from his job. And I remember being raised as a Catholic, you don't delve into scripture as much as if you're probably a Baptist being raised or non-denominational. But I do remember this one scripture, And I still don't know who taught me that scripture about God doesn't give you any more than he knows that you can bear. So my mother, and yes, we do call her mother,
She does.
my mother, but we
They
call
do.
daddy. Um, and they were just concerned about finances and just overhearing their conversation. And and I remember telling my parents, I can't even remember how, I was pretty young, but I said, God is not going to give us any more than what we can bear. I would say probably 9 years old. So I feel that I have always felt the spirit of Jesus in me in the midst of it. Even though, I was a wayward child at times and a young adult, I still knew that that's who lived inside of me.
Yeah, I feel like you instilled that into us, and that is really interesting how you knew as well as that's something that you felt,
Yes,
but then you heard the conversations that people were having, Granddaddy and Granny,
yes.
and you knew how that ultimately applied to you in the grand scheme of things. What I'm really interested how you formulated that yourself as a young woman, and how you kind of took that into your adult life and kind of shaped you. Like how did you get that to shape you?
It's funny that you asked me that question, Ryan, because I was just listening to a sermon this morning, and this pastor made this great analogy. So I think that this is in relation to the question that you just asked me. Having God as a part of your life is like having not having God as a part of your life is like a football game without a ball. How can you play the game of life? And so I think once I recognized God in the spirit, in the midst of my life as a young person, and how he carried me through so many situations, the closer I grew to him.
Yeah.
From a young girl to a college young lady to marrying, and you begin to grow on different levels. And then once you become a mom, and then you really understand the relationship of a sister and then your friends as it grows, you recognize how God was instrumental in all of that.
Yeah.
And this is who I am as this woman today.
That's amazing, having like a sense of identity, because I know Granddaddy and Granny is still that into
Oh,
you,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Yes.
And I also have like a lot of friends who sometimes they might just be it's like I have a lot of questions, or they might be just be trying to figure things out. What could you say to someone that maybe didn't have like a sort of like guidance or identity that they gave their child? Like,
Yes.
what would you say for them if you didn't have that?
Oh, wow.
How they
To answer that question, Ryan, I think it comes from your village, your parents' friends. I'm very close to my aunts and uncles, even my older cousins that's 10 or 15 years older than me. I would say how you get, one of the many ways is, as a parent, once you learn, you're able to pass on and plant that seed in your kids. And we all are broken, but I feel in today's time, being broken gives you an opportunity to find out who God is. And if you're not there in your journey, counseling, surrounding yourself with people, not so much like-minded, but people that are striving to be a better them.
Yeah.
So there's all of these, I try not to be judgmental because God is not the way for everybody, and that's cool. But what he's done in my life, that's what I try to share.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it makes it more authentic when you can tell people the things you've done and God brought you through it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think that's something that you have taught me, is it being just like an example. Like people will, we talked about this, like people
Yes.
will see, like the works and things that you do.
Yes.
And even me, like years ago, going through like a really difficult spell of like my divorce and trying to figure out life and trying to get right with my money and everything. It
Yes.
was a lot, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I could not be standing up here right now speaking and saying this is what you need to do, right?
Absolutely.
But I had to do a lot of self-work and really go back to God as him being my source, because like you said, that worked for me.
Yes.
And it took time for me to get to this point where I know who I am, right?
Yes.
I got identity in myself.
Absolutely.
I mean, because we talk about this all the time about, like our relationship and our family's relationship.
Yes.
And we're really tight.
Yes.
We're really like a tight-knit family.
Yes.
Like go ahead.
Yes. Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, you can go back and forth. Go ahead.
Yes. Yes. Our last name is Fontenette, and I humbly love my last name.
Yes, so do I.
It's,
So do I.
I did a family tree for my dad. Fontenette is from the slave owner that married Juliet from Senegal. So we are part Senegalese as well. And then growing up, knowing our background from Louisiana, love our Louisiana heritage.
And part Haitian. Just
Yes.
finding that out like a couple weeks ago. Anyways,
Yes.
Louisiana.
Yes, yes. And coming from, it was just the four of us growing up, mother, daddy, Dee, and I. And we enjoyed our life. We enjoyed our family. And then, Dee was the first one to get married, aka your nanny. And she had her girls, Brittany and Taylor. And, then I got married and had my two kids, you and Megs. And the family has grown, but our dynamic, I have to say, is so centered around the Lord. It's just so centered, even though I come from being wayward actions and we have kids, and still, if you had to say what centers our family, it's the love of Jesus that we have for him.
Yeah.
From our parents to raising us, to raising another generation, and you guys moving forward, you guys are going to repeat the same thing. Things are going to look a little bit different, but other than that, it's the dynamics is what makes our family rock.
Yeah. I mean, that was you're right. You're right. And that was something I had to learn and really accept and embrace was our family and our dynamic and how loving and close our family and how big our family is as well.
It's grown.
And how that was something that I always wanted, and there was always someone that didn't usually have a family like that.
Yes.
And they always would say, oh man, you guys are so close. Oh my gosh, I love that you guys do this.
Yes.
And I'm like, man, there was a moment in my life where I was like, you know what, man, I like doing my own thing.
Yes.
And I think for me, that was just a matter of testing the waters and going back to identity, figuring out like what I wanted for myself, because you guys did a great job at raising me and Megan. And yeah, you guys did. You guys did. I mean, look at this. It's junior at Houston Tillotson,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Sophomore at Texas State.
Yeah.
And I feel like for me, it was just a moment of I needed to figure out who Ryan was.
Yes. Absolutely.
Because everyone was always pouring into us and pouring into to the family saying, hey, dude, you're going to be this, you're going to be great, you're going to be successful. But for me, it was like, okay, but what does that look like for me? You know, what does that look like maybe in my own time or in my own terms? I had to figure that out. You guys were telling me that. I was getting that great support from my family, right? And I think I eventually I kind of got turned away from it because I'm like, okay, now this is a moment where I need to venture off and find myself.
Yes.
It was interesting to do that, and I love that you were still always there. The family was always still there, kind of just like corralling.
Yes.
And being supportive.
Yeah, it's helping. I always used to tell you and Max that, you know, we're parents when you're under 18, and then we become consultants after 18. And, you know, allowing you guys to bump your heads to figure it out.
Which we did.
It's it's just so important that you guide when children needs guidance. And then it's important when they need to fly, let them fly. But letting them know also that you're still there to love them and support them. Not necessarily condoning the behavior that they've chosen.
Right.
But letting them know more than anything that you love them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that you guys had such a very healthy balance of doing that for me and Megan. And sometimes, just letting us let the chips fall where they may.
Yes.
You know, like, all right, hey, you know, we're going to have to discipline y'all. And there were times where we did get disciplined. And there were times where, okay, well, you're going to learn if you don't get here on time, you're going to be late.
Yes.
It's going to affect your job. If you don't study, then you won't do well on your test. And that was always, I feel like I always knew, right? Like what it is I was supposed to be doing. But then there was always like a choice that I was like, okay, you know what? Nah, I'm going to go ahead and do something else.
Exactly. Don't we all do that?
Yeah, we do. We do.
Okay.
We do.
And then we come back. You know, life it's really like a full circle. Once you know, it's sort of like what Granddad has always said, Daddy, you know, you come as a baby, you leave as a baby.
Yeah.
You know, you have to crawl before you walk, you know, the book of Roland.
Right. Yes.
The book of Roland.
Yes.
And so you have to, everybody has their own journey. Rather you agree with it or not, everybody has their own journey. And there's lessons in each one of those journeys that you take to grow you.
Right.
And if there are people that doesn't really have to go through as many journeys, that's okay, because they still receive lessons instead of the 2 or 3 journeys they have, in somebody 20.
Right.
That is the whole point of what life is you trying to figure out what works for you, right?
Yeah, it is. It is really you, like you said, on your own journey, figuring out yourself and like really kind of having God to guide you that whole entire process.
Yes.
Because you really can't have someone saying you're going to do this, you're going to do that, because it changes eventually. Yes. And then you realize, okay, what I'm supposed to be doing and what I'm not supposed to be doing. And it's interesting that before we even like had this, the start of this podcast, how I just been kind of listening to what people have been saying, listening to like little things that have been popping up. And I was talking to this brother on campus today, and in short, he's like, yeah, man, seize the day, don't let the day seize you, and all these, you know, proverbs and stuff.
Yes.
And then he talked about how his mom was such an integral part of kind of instilling like the principles and the morals that he needed, right? And in order to kind of move throughout life. And I was like, okay, dude, wow, that's interesting. Like I'm about to go speak to my mom's in like a couple of hours, and here you are talking about it. And it's so interesting seeing how different moms and relationships are with moms and daughters and moms and sons. People always say there is an interesting and a strong dynamic between a mother and a son.
Yes.
Right. And I feel like for you and me, that was like, it was pretty immediate. I feel like growing up as a kid, and I remember all the days we used to drive around like in a little red Honda Civic.
Yes.
And this woman, by the way, oh my gosh, she loves some Justin Timberlake.
Yes, I do.
I would never forget. I'll be going to school some days, and you would have like in the CD you'll pop in, and it would be, I can't remember what album that was, but it was the one he was wearing the black jacket.
Yes.
It was kind of
yes.
gloomy in the background, and that would be the CD we would listen to almost every morning going into work. And
I remember one time I was singing one of his songs, and I was singing as if I was singing it to him.
oh my god.
And Poppy said, "Who are you singing that song to?"
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that you know, all my friends excuse me, all my friends, you know, they would always call me an Oreo, right? They always
Yes.
say you're the whitest black guy, or
Yes.
man, you talk this way, and I'm like, yeah, duh, nigga. Like I grew up in the suburbs. Like, what do you expect? But you guys did such a great job, and I was having this conversation with Miss Williams, Paisha's mom, about what you did as a mother for me, and also what black mothers do for their kids, which is you guys set us up for success.
Absolutely.
Right. So
yes.
even though we were listening to Justin Timberlake in the car, right, you were still teaching me one about music, also another thing about how I need to approach myself, how I need to speak, right,
Yes.
as well as how I need to conduct myself, even, you know, in front of a woman, how to even respect her, how to go on a date, right, all these
Yes.
things.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. I'm like, okay, so you taught me the aspects socially, but then for a job, right, I saw firsthand like what that looked like to be professional. And then for you to say, okay, this is what you need to do. You need to show up. You need to do this. But you really didn't even say it. You kind of just did it. And I feel like I just saw what you were doing.
I think it was a little of both. I think
Okay.
because
Yeah.
you have always seen me work outside the house.
Yeah.
So so I was always career driven. I mean, I was traveling, and you would be at home with Poppy.
Right.
And I would be out of the country.
Shout out Pops. What's up, man?
Yes.
Anyways.
But just trying to prepare. Great and Granddaddy them did that for Nanny and I. Showing up on time, being prepared. That's your research on the company,
Right.
you know, what the company's background. You know, Nanny and I were called Oreo kids also when we were kids.
Man.
But one of my dearest friends, she says, "Sis, you don't have your black card." I have my black card. I have my black card. I show it my NAACP org
My gosh.
with Rosa Parks. But it's just important that we stress to our kids, because of this big issue that's going on now, removing our history, regardless of what your ethnicity and culture is, not understanding the true aspect of what DEI means. I was sharing that with coworkers, and just making sure that we have given you and Megan, and I'm sure all the rest of us parents of color, tools for our kids to be successful.
Right.
We are still behind the curveball. I think they had a commercial 2 or 3 years ago, and it was a commercial from a church, and they had all the kids standing on the same line, and then they had someone to speak and say, how many kids come from dual parent household? And it was multinational of kids. So you almost started breaking down the cultures right there. So all these white kids moved up. How many of you guys' parents are college educated? You know, they're still children of different ethnicity that's moving up,
Right.
but it's getting very, small, the percentage.
Right.
Well, how many of your parents went to Ivy League schools? And then it starts getting even smaller. How many of your parents are professionals? Doctors, lawyers. And before you know it, you see all these white kids moving forward, and all of the different ethnicities are still behind. So that means, to my point, is that we're behind the curveball. So each generation, we get better and better with preparing our kids for the real world. What's the real world? We know what the real world looks like.
Right.
So, because a few years ago, I think it was Campbell's Soup when I got my certification from Cornell in diversity. And I think it was Campbell's Soup that had like a proto, they did a study about how they decided to recruit all these new hires, but they removed their colleges, universities, and they removed their names so that it can be unbiased, so that they wouldn't, so that the recruiting or the hiring manager would base the resume on the skills that they're looking for. And at the end of the day, they had a rainbow of different ethnicities working at Campbell's Soup.
Wow.
And I presented that at the last company that I worked at. Oh, we're not going to do anything like that, Melissa. Because you have to, this whole diversity thing, this is from the heart. This has nothing to do with who's smart, who's not. Are we giving this to certain people and not giving this? This is about, how do you feel about another human being that has worked hard at a job, going to college, and is qualified for that position? And who wants employees to look the same?
Right.
I have a small business. I want young people that I speak with, I want every ethnicity to help me with my art.
Yeah.
I want every gender, whether you are male, female, gay, trans. It's unbelievable. And I just have to say this, because hopefully this will go to a place where it can change somebody's heart. If you're talking about using God in a sentence, the Son of Jesus, the Holy Trinity, and you are discriminating and think you are better than someone else because of the color of your skin, that's not the same God I serve.
Yeah.
Because the God that I serve loves everyone, and He created everyone.
Yeah.
But you're
right.
We can talk about that later.
No, I mean that was great. I was gonna kept going. I mean,
it behooves me.
It's great.
It behooves me, Ryan, and we talk about this
Yes.
all the time. Stop telling people you are a believer in Jesus Christ and you are treating people like this.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to get on a tangent of our politicians, people that we have elected to be our voice in DC, is sitting down, accepting this type of behavior from someone that proclaims to be Jesus' follower, and you are mistreating people like this.
Yeah.
I heard in the sermon today, and this pastor said, what does God ask from all of us?
To love one another.
That's it.
That's it.
To love one another. That's it.
Yeah.
He didn't say, well, I preferred the billionaires over, the middle class.
Right.
I preferred the beautiful people over the not beautiful. He is a God. He is a Father of just.
Yeah.
And it's so disheartening. It's so disheartening to see our brothers and sisters of Christ show the ugly side of the monster. And this is what people that are not believers, this is why they don't go to church. That's why they don't hear our prayers. That's why they choose to not be followers. Is if that's the way you are and you're a follower of Jesus, I don't want to do that. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm not even a follower of Jesus per se, certain people. And I treat people and love everybody.
Yeah.
It's just, it's really sad, Ryan. It's because it doesn't have to be this way. And in this conversation that we're having, you know, I prayed about this. As soon as you said, I have a surprise, I said, Lord, I don't know what the surprise is, but I ask that you are in the midst of our conversation.
Yeah.
That it changes hearts and lives, that it inspires others, because I do believe in my heart, Ryan, that we still have more good people than bad people.
100%.
I still believe in my heart
100%.
that we still have people that love each other, that accepts each other, that respects each other, that's kind to each other. I still believe the overall majority. I just wish, my prayer is that we as the people, would get together and say, stop.
Yeah.
We're getting rid of everybody in D.C. and we're going to start over.
Nice.
Melissa, we're going to have you in Department of Education. We are going to have you to inspire young people to follow their passion and dreams.
Yeah.
You know, Ryan, we're going to have you in communications, and we want you to be able to instill in young people. You know, we're going to use everybody's talents and gifts to change our country. And get rid of all of these people that's going into politics to become millionaires and become wealthy people. No, we want to get back to basics. You need help? I'm going to help you. You need eggs? Since eggs was the real issue. So in order to do that, honestly speaking, is changing one person at a time, changing one situation in your community. And you know that's always been my prayer for you and Megan, is that this world is so not about you guys.
Right.
So Granny and Granddaddy taught us that. This world is so not about you, Melissa or Denise. This is all about being a servant to others. That's why God created us, to be servants, and not to feel because you are a servant that you are entitled to the goodness of what comes out of servanthood. Those that are first will be last, and those that are last will be first.
Amen. I mean,
not to preach, but these are conversations we have, right?
These are everything that you're saying is absolutely right and spot on. And I just wish that more of us were in a headspace of loving and being supportive. Yeah. And like you said, it's just a servitude. Like it's about you, but it's not about you.
Exactly.
And we had this conversation yesterday about politics, and you freshly coming off of, you know, actually working in DEI.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And how that in itself helps people have opportunities. And like her daddy said, you can't do what the white boys do.
Yes.
But my proverb is, I'm going to do what I need to do.
Exactly.
Right.
Because, according to God's will.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Because for me, being a black man now, I pray about everything before I even execute it, right? Or even before I might even have before the thought is even formulated, I say, okay, whatever you're going to do is whatever you're going to do. I just want to be the vessel for it. ever so often people ask about my tattoo. It's John 3:30 out on my arm. Is he must increase and I must decrease. And people are like, what does that mean? What does that mean? I'm like, dude, it means for God to increase and me to not really be anything.
Yes.
Right. Like my life is for him and for others. And I had to really get that into my mind as I grew older as to what that meant. I feel like I've innately always knew in my soul like what this spirit was of just being like loving and kind and enduring. And
Right.
of course I had my days of falling off and really kind of needing or doing like whatever felt good, like for my flesh, right, for me. But innately my moral compass was always pointed to this.
Yes.
Right. This person that is just wanting just to love and to support people and see them for who and what they are.
Right.
And when you talk about how politics are, it's difficult now to not let it affect you.
Oh, absolutely.
And then as well as everyone else is also watching what we're saying and what we're doing.
Absolutely.
So for me, seeing like all these, I don't care who you are really, but for you to say that you are a quote unquote Christian, a lot of them are like Christian nationalists.
Yeah.
And like they really use it negatively.
Yes.
And for you to say this is we're doing this for God, it's like you're not, because if you were, you would really be saying this is not even right for what I'm even saying.
Exactly, Ryan. Ownership. Yes. And we are held accountable for what we spew out of our mouths.
Yes.
And we will be
we are.
judged.
Yes, we are.
We will be judged because, and it's so funny that you mentioned that, Ryan. I just want to even take it a step further about, when politicians put their hands on the Bible. When you put your hands on the Bible, you better be like Daddy said, you better be damn sure that you are going to hold up to your responsibility according to God's will.
Yeah.
And if you're not, and mislead people and lie to people, because you don't have to do that. That's why some politicians get out of that game. It's because they feel that they have lost their soul.
Yeah.
One of my nieces, we were talking about Revelation the other day, and she had mentioned about, this part in Revelation. I'm not sure. Please do not quote me and have comments as if I'm a theologian, because I'm not. I am going based on my relationship with the Lord,
right,
and my testimony that I have had. But she had mentioned in Revelation in regards to, Nene, are some of us just going to come back like zombies or what have you? I don't know where she sort of got that in her head or what have you. But I was thinking, but what touched my heart was the Holy Spirit, because I told her, I said, Brittany, I said, I don't think it's necessarily that we're coming back as what have you. I think so many people are walking around dead now. They have dead souls. They've sold their souls. So people are walking around with no souls. And so when I thought about that, it's like, yeah, how many people have sold their souls to whatever?
Yeah.
Money, you name it. Their jobs,
Yeah.
Meaning that they're spending less time with their families, helping grow their children, develop skills, and that's just so sad. And it's not because of where I am in my life, because I think I am one of the most blessed people on this planet. I don't have many zeros in my account at all. But when you look at and I love Tabitha Brown because she just preaches such great sermons in her lessons. And you don't have to be wealthy with zeros in your account
Yeah.
to be a joyful person.
Yeah. That's so true.
That is a work in progress every day, like freedom.
Yes, it is, and it's like, where do you have your joy put into, and
Yes.
what is your currency?
Yes.
Because for me, money really,
like that.
It's really nothing.
Yes.
It's nothing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But the joy, the love, and the peace that I have is limitless. And you have politicians and even billionaires.
Yes.
They can't buy sleep.
No.
I sleep great at night.
Yes. Amen, Ron.
I am knocking
Yes.
out
Amen.
immediately. So when it comes down to people saying that they might need to either do what they have to do or they might sell out, it's sad and it's disheartening because you don't really know what you're doing and what you're doing it for. And just talk about the journey, you get lost
Yes.
within that journey.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, talk about identity from earlier.
Yes.
If you don't know what you're rooted in, if you don't know what you're anchored in, if
Absolutely,
you don't know
Ryan.
who you are, then you are just going to be swaying
Yes.
left and right.
Yes.
And I've known people, where it's tough for them to wake up, right? It's tough for them to wake up and go to a job that they're making great money. And I'm over here like, oh man, I have to go over here. I got to bike over here, catch the bus and catch the train. And
Yes.
but mommy, the amount of people that have told me, they're like, dude, that's actually really cool of what you're doing. I'm like, granted, yeah, sure, I want a car, bro, right? Like,
Of course.
yeah, I want a car, nigga.
That's convenient, right?
Yes. But they're like, wow, that's so cool that you do this. And I'm like, yeah, okay, thank you. They put into my mind a different perspective and like, yes, what you are doing, like we can see the joy that you bring, right? We can see the light. And I think that's something you can't really take away. You can't really even extinguish.
You can't even put a value on it.
No.
It's priceless.
No.
Because, Ryan, people, I'll never forget, my sister told me one time when I was early on in my walk, the difference between happy and joy. Happy is circumstantial and
Right.
joy is regardless if you have two quarters to rub against each other, that there's still joy in that.
Right.
And that is something that you work hard every day, sort of like freedom. You have to work on freedom. You have to work on joy. All those things you have to work on daily because there is always someone trying to steal that from you.
So you used to say that to us as kids. No one steal your joy.
Don't let
No one steal your...
let them steal your lunch money.
Oh my gosh.
Let them steal your lunch.
Oh my gosh.
But do not let them steal your joy.
Yeah.
Because that's a part of your soul.
Yeah, it is. And I'll even add on to that and say faith as well. And that's something that is
Absolutely.
constantly in a work for me.
Yes.
Because it's difficult. People look at the world and I have conversations. People are like, bro, okay, that's great. Cool, you love God. Okay, me too. How is he able to let all this stuff happen? Or they say like, why?
Yeah.
And I'm over here like I'm stumped, mommy, because I don't even know what to even say because I don't even have a response, right? There are literally no words that I can tell someone. But what I do say is his way is greater than I can even
Absolutely right.
ever fathom.
Yes.
And that has proved a point of one, he's never let me down.
Yeah.
Never.
Never.
Oh my God. Mommy. And just this is consistency.
Yes.
This is consistency.
Yes.
And he's never gonna let down his kids.
Yes.
And it is so great to see that even the people that I don't know. I don't know, mommy. Like I said, I just tell people I don't know when I don't know.
Yeah,
you know.
we don't.
Yeah, I can't say anything that I don't know, but I do offer support. Go ahead. What were you about to say?
No, we don't know, but we do know. We don't know how he orchestrates all
Right.
of that.
Oh,
But-
okay. I see what you're saying. We
yes.
don't know because we don't know, but we do know
But
what
we
he.
do
how he
know.
works. Okay.
You know, it's sort of like that whole. I learned a couple of years ago during Bible study with my daughter Megan and my mother and my sister and my nieces is that word impossible.
Yeah.
That was just like because it really says I'm possible.
Yeah, it does.
When I learned that, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah,
I mean, how
it
many
does.
times? And that's what you don't know what to tell people, but then you know who does those I don't know,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Right.
Because we don't have the answers to nothing.
Yeah.
We think we do,
We don't.
and we don't.
Yeah.
And we make plans, and he laughs at them.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's
You're right. I mean, that's why I really prayed about this and been wanting to do a podcast
yes,
because I know.
this is so much fun.
I know. Because I didn't want to do anything that wasn't of him,
Yes, right.
and especially now in my life, everything has to be. I'm submitting this to you first,
Yes,
Heavenly Father. Like I want this to be
yes, Jesus.
what you want to do, not what I want to do.
Yes,
And it's so crazy, mommy. Like even going back to school, go back to HT.
yes.
Shout out Houston Tillison. Go Rams.
Woo.
Shout out Dawa. Everything has just been moving so seamlessly and it's been very flowing. Like you asked me about like how's school, and like I know I say it's great, but now me explaining to you about having with joy
Yes.
and having faith,
Yes,
it's been going so well that I can't even. I almost don't even have like any words.
yes,
It's how things just open up. It's like a flower. It's just like slowly blooming.
yes. Ooh,
And
beautiful analogy.
Yeah, mommy. And I can't really say anything besides it's just God.
Oh, wow.
You know, it's so funny because I'm working on a whole bunch of creative projects, and I want a bunch of creative people, and I'm not gonna get into too much. I don't want to say too much.
Yes,
One of my classmates just so happened to be working on a project, and she's skilled in this one area where I'm like, that's exactly what I needed. It just so happened that she knows how to do this one skill. I'm like,
Yes.
dude, right down the production line here in the future, I'm gonna need you
yes,
because your skills and what you do is just so important. I could not have even like scripted it or even try to figure out anything else because how it just like how seamless like it flowed.
yes. And the timing of it,
The timing.
and the gift that God gave her.
Yeah.
I mean, that's wow.
Yeah, I mean it's all of it's a trip, and I mean just having each other here in this moment, I think it shows like how things just naturally flow and like how it's supposed to be.
Yes,
And the component of faith, like I even try to tell my friends, like I don't even know how you even tell your friends like how to have faith in moments when you don't have faith. It's like the most difficult thing to do.
Ryan.
Because for me, it's just like, all right, dude, like, you know,
What do you say?
for me, it's like, okay, it's either going to work out or it's not going to work out. But I have faith that it's going to work out for my good,
Okay.
you know, and I might not know, or I might want it to work out a certain type of way, but I have faith that it will still work out the way that it's supposed to, like for me. And so I can't really lose like, oh man, God, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. He's like, dude, did you even know I prevented this so then you can have this?
Yes.
So like like I said, his ways are way more intricate than my own ways. And
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, even thinking back to how you and Nanny were raised, how close you guys are, and growing up in a suburb and talking about identity, and then you doing that for me and Megan, how did that come to be for us, that you knew, okay, yes, I'm a suburban mom, black kid. We were like the only black family on the block.
Yes.
I
That's
mean,
hard, Ryan. That is really, that's such a good question.
because it was difficult for us to navigate. Like for me, it was somewhat easy.
Yeah, it's different for boys than girls. That whole identity is just for girls of color.
Yeah.
All they see is what they see on TV every day.
Yeah.
Silky long.
Right.
That's the only hair to have.
Right.
And I was very adamant to make sure your sister loved, that book, remember that book? I think Auntie Dina gave it to you, The Skin You're In.
Yeah.
And I had Megan to read that book. I read it to her, and she read the book. And with boys, I don't think, we had to really dive into it as much about your identity, because teaching your identity of what God says who you are was easy to teach black boys that.
I don't know. I agree to disagree. I mean, I'll speak for Megan first, because I love my little sister. That's my little nigga, bro. That's my homie. That's my ride or die. We used to drive around. We used to play music. We used to go down to Austin. We used to do everything. That was my dude. That's my dude. Shout out to you, Megan. But I remember her growing up with a lot of like white neighbors and white friends, and I would always see like how she would see herself, how she like would take pictures and do like a little duck lips, and like I'm like, dude, stop that. Stop. But
you already have lips.
Yeah, exactly. You don't do none of that.
No.
But I was always like, dude, like you're so beautiful.
Yes.
And I'm like, your hair is gorgeous.
Yes.
Like wear that natural.
Yes.
And I feel like she's starting to get it. She is getting it way more so now.
She is. And the reason why, I think, Ryan, not only Poppy and I, it takes a village.
Yeah.
But I think, and not to interrupt you, I think also surrounding yourself with people that looks like you.
Yeah.
That helped Megan and all of my nieces, because I actually called my best friend's daughters my nieces also. And being with each other and trying to figure out what hair coil you have, a 3 or 4, a 2B or what have you, but just really understanding and growing and inspiring them to love self.
Yeah.
And that we serve a Father that doesn't make mistakes. And so when he created her and Taylor and Brittany and Aaron and Mackenzie and Micah and Yolanda and you name it, when he created all of these young people, these people of ethnicity, women, he did not make a mistake.
Yes.
And white is not the only beauty.
Yes.
Black is beautiful.
Yes.
Coffee is beautiful. Mocha is beautiful. Tan is beautiful. All of those beautiful shades of women are beautiful.
Yeah.
And, that was very difficult for Nanny and I growing up. Raised in the same environment as you and Megan.
Yeah.
And our identity being raised with a predominantly white environment. But then I stepped into Texas Southern University and I said, my black is beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. You're right. I mean, when
Yes.
it comes down to all those things of identity and this self acceptance, you got to love just who you are and what you are. And I think
Yes.
it's up for us just to do that, just to
Yes.
love people where they're at, embrace them, and regardless of anything, that is the most important thing.
Absolutely, Ryan.
That is the most important thing.
Yes. Loving self. And when you can love yourself, you can love others.
Yes.
That's the
Yeah.
reason why, we are in a situation that we're in. It's about power. It's about not loving self.
Right.
It's about not respecting self. All those things that I've taught you and Megan.
Yeah.
It starts from within.
Yeah.
So if you don't love who you are, how can you love someone else?
Yeah.
If you feel that you want to hoard power and, okay, so you're saying that nobody else is smart enough to be able to do anything else?
Right.
No one else has power, no one else has intelligence, no one else. So that starts from within. That's the brokenness of where people are in today's time.
Yeah.
And the only way that you can be restored and renewed is through Christ.
Yes, ma'am.
The only way. That's why he's called the truth and the way, or in God we trust, or whatever saying that you want to have.
Yeah.
He's the truth and the way.
Yeah.
And he will set you free.
Yes, ma'am. Well, Mommy, thank you.
This was so much
much.
fun.
Again, I appreciate everything that you've done, everything that you are. For you to be an icon in the city, and to also give you your flowers, and to highlight the things that you've done as well in this city that I'm from. I would not have been here, obviously, if it wasn't because of you, and I would not be in Austinite if it wasn't because of you. So just thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're
Love you.
welcome.
Appreciate it. We might have to do another episode of
We
this,
are,
but
because there are so many other topics that we have spoken about, and
yeah,
just in conversation, and how natural and how it flows.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, Mommy.
Yeah. Thank
Thank you.
for
Thank you. I love
inviting
you.
me.
Welcome
I
to
love
the
you
Renaissance. Y'all, will catch you on the next episode. Have a good one. Peace. Again, welcome to the Renaissance. We're just getting started. Y'all have a good one. We out.